taxpayers, especially the middle class. Is Bernie's fuzzy math adding up? Well, let's meet tonight's party panel and find out. We've got National Review Online reporter and host of Sincerely Cat on Fox Station. It is Carrot Turf, and attorney and Young Voices senior contributor Tyler Grant. And here she is back in the flesh. We want a picture. National Taxpayers Union senior fellow and Forward Strategies president Mattie Duppler is here. Woo! So let's talk about the money, because there's no way you can raise the marginal tax rate, you can tax Wall Street speculation, you can have all these vague proposals. First of all, you're never going to get them passed. Right. But second of all, even if you had all that stuff, would it be enough to cover the tab for...
No, not even close, Kennedy. Here's the problem with Bernie. Not only does the math not add up, he's not very creative either. He has all these ideas to fund these plans that have been tried in other countries and have failed miserably. A wealth tax tried in 12 different countries over the past generation or so.
Super tax
75% of the countries who tried it, it's failed because it doesn't work. Doubling or tripling corporate taxation, even though he's depending on those corporations to fund these plans, we know every single economic expert will tell you you're going to reduce the number of revenues you're going to get from businesses. And of course, he keeps saying that the rich people are going to be the ones who are going to pick up the tab. You increase that top marginal rate to 52%.
What happens to rich people?
Well, what happens to rich people? What happens to the revenue from the income that potentially they're supposed to be generating? It falls because they find either other places to put it, or they can't use that income productively anymore, and you can't get revenues out of it anymore.
And that means the price of gold is going up. That's great news for me and William Devane. But it's funny because Bernie says people who earn less than $29,000 a year will essentially be totally exempt from paying for any health care, which is not true, because if Bernie has his $15 an hour federally mandated minimum wage, then the average person who works a 30 to 40-hour week is going to make more than $29,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean,
so he's basically screwing everyone.
I mean, what it boils down to is
he's the Wilt Chamberlain of politics.
Is that what it is? Yeah, I mean, what it boils down to is the fact that, like, Democrats are very good at spending other people's money. Yeah. And when you think about the fact that if you look at the $13.1 trillion climate change proposal that Bernie Sanders has, at the same time as the Medicare proposals happening, the pool of money, at least in part, there's a Venn diagram of which part of it comes from individual taxpayers. And if you look at, if you think that the people on Wall Street, the people that make these millions and billions of dollars a year, if you think that they're going to invest this money in the American government through the force of taxation, I got a big bridge to sell you. Like, as a securitization lawyer, the fact that there's so many different levels of investment that allow people to be able to, like, buy a car, buy a house, if that dries up, people are not going to be able to do the things that they expect.
You're hurting poor people, because
100%.
if people who are retiring have money in their 401ks, and then there's all of a sudden a Wall Street speculation tax, so people are no longer investing their money in Wall Street, then the stock market plunges, and so does the money that people have in their 401ks. So you're not hurting rich people, because rich people will buy other stuff.
They'll figure out a way around this tax.
Amen.
That's the whole thing.
Whether it's
that
gold
rich people do,
or crypto,
but I mean, that's why these wealth taxes failed in other countries.
Sex robots.
It's so easy to move capital.
Now I'm listening.
It always comes back
like, get me in here and my Christmas list.
There's also an interesting legal question where there's a thought of, like, how do they force, part of this and the way that these rich people make money, and certainly Wall Street traders, is you have to force them to sell and trade stock in order to make money off of them selling stock.
So what does that do to the stock?
So, well, I don't know that you can force people to do and divest of their property. So I don't know that Bernie has accounted for the fact that
Warren would love to do it, but even though they're both millionaires, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have multiple properties, and they still don't know how their personal economics function. It's insane.
Don't. I just remember back in 2016 when Trump was saying that Mexico was going to pay for the wall. Everyone was saying that was bananas, and you were right. It was bananas. I agree it was bananas, but now a lot of those same people are saying that Bernie is going to pay for something that costs $30 trillion with $17.5 trillion.
Yeah, right. And
that's just as bad, and it's also worse because it's not funny. Unlike the other thing, it's also not funny.
It's not unique. It's not cute.
Is there like a sea monkey where you can add something to it so it magically doubles?
My brother's friend Adam spilled on my sea monkeys when I was 5, and I haven't forgotten it.
But it's $97 trillion worth of new spending and less than $40 trillion in new revenues. That math does not add up no matter which way you slice.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that means that China is now funding our health care. That China, because that's who we're going to borrow money from.
Finance.
Yes.
Well, that's true. And listen, when we talk about corporate taxation, when we talk about taxing the wealthy, one thing that should be realized is that corporate taxes are borne by workers. So this whole notion that we're going to pay workers more and they'll be able to afford their health care because we'll be giving them subsidies for it simply isn't true, because they also will have less earning potential and less opportunity because the corporate burden on taxation falls on those workers.
Yes. And you know what? He's hosing them into oblivion, and that means the economy is going to crater and more people will die. Well, that's part of the great news. The other good part is the panel's sticking around, because coming up, where in the heck